Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Charlie Kirk. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Charlie James Kirk was born on October 14, 1993 in Arlington Heights, Illinois. He went by the name Charlie. His father was an architect and his mother was a mental health counselor. When Charlie was in high school, he helped a Republican senator in Illinois to get elected. During his senior year, he launched a campaign to fight a price increase in cookies at his school. After graduation, Charlie attended college, but he dropped out to become a full-time political activist. His political positions were conservative and included supporting the Second Amendment and Christian nationalism. Charlie was opposed to LGBT rights, COVID vaccine mandates, and abortion. In 2012, Charlie founded an organization called Turning Point USA, which promotes conservative values. The focus here is on recruiting those who are college age. Initially, Charlie indicated he was not the world's biggest fan of Donald Trump, but in 2016, he started supporting Trump vigorously. In 2019, Charlie started a YouTube channel. At the time I'm making this video, the channel has over 4 million subscribers and has been viewed over 1.1 billion times. Many of his videos featured Charlie talking at university campuses and debating poorly prepared students who maintain far-left positions. Here are a few examples of video titles that sum up his channel pretty well. Why do Democrat women want to die alone? Gay man saved by Christ after 10 years of homosexual lifestyle. Charlie Kirk crushes woke lies at Michigan State. DEI is a sin. Charlie Kirk ends debate once and for all. God strikes the hearts of Purdue during debate with Charlie Kirk. Conservative student almost turned socialist, but Charlie helps save him. And people are coming to Jesus in record numbers. Starting in 2020, Charlie hosted a conservative talk radio program called The Charlie Kirk Show. In May 2021, Charlie married a woman named Erica. The couple went on to have a daughter and a son. Over the next few years, Charlie continued with his political activism and became a prominent conservative social media influencer. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On September 10, 2025, Charlie was speaking at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. This was the first stop in his American comeback tour, which also included visits to several other states, including Colorado, Minnesota, Virginia, and Louisiana. About 3,000 people attended the event. As far as security, there were only 6 police officers, as well as a few members of Charlie's private security team. Charlie was sitting under a tent and having conversations with members of the audience, which was his typical format at events like this. At about 12:20 p.m., an audience member asked, "Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?" Charlie responded, "Too many," which caused the crowd to cheer. The audience member then said, "Okay, well, it's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'll give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Charlie said, "Counting or not counting gang violence." At this moment, when he finished saying that, a gunman fired a single shot from the roof of the Losi Center about 425 feet away. This is another building on the university's campus. The bullet struck Charlie in the neck. In a gruesome scene, he suddenly jerked backward and blood immediately spurted from his neck. Charlie was transported to a hospital where he died at 2:40 p.m. Here is what the authorities found during the course of their investigation. 2 people were arrested right after the shooting, but they were both released. Investigators stated that neither one was involved in the shooting. The gunman was captured on video surveillance. He was described as a college-age male. He arrived at about 11:52 a.m., entered the Losi Center, and used a stairwell to climb to the rooftop. After the assassination, the gunman could be seen running across the rooftop of that building. At first, the FBI appeared confident that facial recognition would lead to the killer's identity, but eventually they released images of a person of interest to the media. The young man could be seen wearing sunglasses, a black shirt, and a black hat. A Mauser bolt-action rifle chambered in .30-06 was found wrapped in a towel in a nearby wooded area. The authorities indicated they found a footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints, which they will analyze. There was a spent case in the chamber of the rifle and 3 live cartridges in the magazine. The ammunition was engraved with expressions consistent with transgender and anti-fascist ideologies. At the time I'm making this video, the assassin is still on the loose. The authorities delayed a press conference on September 11, 2025, citing rapid developments in this case. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Based on the evidence the authorities have revealed so far, I imagine that they will be able to identify the shooter pretty quickly. Finding the assassin and taking him into custody, however, are different issues. Clearly, this is a dangerous individual who is highly motivated to escape. Some experts have theorized that the assassin must have been a highly trained sniper, like this was a professional hit. I would be surprised if this was the case. I don't believe this assassin was highly organized or sophisticated. Here are a few reasons why. As I mentioned, the shot was fired from 425 feet away. A Mauser rifle chambered in .30-06 can easily strike a target at this range. A highly trained sniper can be deadly with this weapon at distances much longer than that. A 425-foot shot is within the capability of a competent marksman. There is no need for the assassin to have elite training or anything even approaching that level of competence. The bullet drop with a .30-06 over this distance would be about 5 inches, and Charlie was struck in his neck. This suggests that the shooter was aiming for his head and failed to compensate for bullet drop. Clearly, it would be better for the shooter if the authorities never found his rifle. He removed it from the scene of the shooting, the rooftop, but then left it in the woods, where it was quickly located. If he was going to abandon the rifle anyway, which is a questionable strategy, why not simply leave it on the roof? This makes it seem like the shooter panicked and decided to abandon his rifle under unfavorable circumstances. He didn't know what to do. He didn't actually have a complete plan. If the gunman could have hidden the weapon, that would have been a lot better for his escape effort. Why didn't he have an area prepared to hide the weapon? He could have dug a hole in the woods in preparation for the shooting and put the rifle there after the assassination. This is consistent with the person who is being governed by their emotions, not an individual who was carefully planning an attack all the way through. The gunman allegedly inscribed transgender and anti-fascist messages on the cartridges, which suggests he was motivated by something related to these ideologies. Why would he do this unless he planned on leaving the rifle behind? Who would read the message if he kept the rifle? Again, what was the point of taking the rifle from the scene of the shooting at all? Making inscriptions only created more evidence, which could be used against him. Here we see yet another unwise move based on emotional reasoning. Presumably, the person of interest released by the authorities is the shooter. He was not wearing any type of mask. Ever since the COVID pandemic, a person can get away with wearing a mask in public. It does not draw suspicion or cause alarm like it used to. Why didn't the shooter wear a mask? When looking at all the mistakes made by this shooter, I don't believe he was a professional at all. Rather, an impulsive and sadistic individual motivated by hatred. He was so focused on killing Charlie Kirk that he did not dedicate time and thought to his own escape plan. The gunman wanted Charlie to die more than anything else in the world. His mission was to stop Charlie from spreading a conservative message at any cost. Item number 2. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for some commentators to make insensitive comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination. For example, the analyst Matthew Dowd speculated on MSNBC that a Charlie Kirk supporter accidentally killed him by firing in celebration. Matthew didn't say this happened. Again, he was just speculating. He went on to say that, quote, hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. You can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and then not expect awful actions to take place, unquote. MSNBC fired Matthew Dowd, calling his assessment inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable. Whenever there is an act of political violence anymore, both the left and the right claim that the other side caused it. This is now part of the playbook. It doesn't matter what the facts are. Everything descends into a mindless blame game. Item number 3. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Charlie Kirk was a controversial and well-known conservative figure. He wasn't a politician, but he had a lot of political influence, which was evident through his help to get Donald Trump elected as president. Charlie was effective at mobilizing young people to support Trump. This is a group that for a long time seemed to be moving to the left. For this reason, Charlie was viewed as a champion of the right. He managed to turn the tide and protect the future of conservative ideals. As all this was going on, hatred was building against Charlie Kirk among a small subgroup who promote the transgender ideology. Not everyone in this group, again just a small subgroup of this population. He had infuriated this subgroup with his repeated rebukes of their belief system. Furthermore, there was a lot of political rhetoric about how Donald Trump was a fascist. If he gets his way, he will become a dictator. Charlie was a supporter of Trump, so the two became connected in people's minds. If one was evil and dangerous, then both were. This led the small, far-left subgroup to view the promotion of conservative values as an existential issue. In their way of thinking, if the right had its way, proponents of the transgender ideology would be eliminated completely. They would cease to exist. This made the stakes of the political debate much higher and led some people to contemplate violence, including the gunman who killed Charlie Kirk. Again, this is just one possibility, a theory. Through exposure to extreme political positions, this gunman came to believe that political violence is justified as long as there is a perceived existential threat. He learned that science is evil and a tool of, apparently, the fascists. The gunman came to believe that bullying and terrorism are legitimate tools of somebody trying to bring about political change. In a cowardly move, the gunman killed Charlie and then fled to escape responsibility. He falsely believed that the assassination would advance his cause, but it backfired spectacularly. A lot of people have been suggesting that everyone needs to tone down the rhetoric. I agree this is warranted, but the problem is larger than just some people using their freedom of speech to call Trump a fascist. Society should be able to handle political opinions that are extreme without reacting violently. I think the real problem here is that some people have an overwhelming sense of entitlement. They have no critical thinking skills, and they are affected by cognitive distortions like all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, mental filtering, personalization, and, of course, emotional reasoning. Unable to effectively debate their adversaries, they resort to violence. They fail to recognize how political violence is not the answer and will not lead to them achieving their goals. Charlie Kirk went from being an influential conservative figure to a martyr. It is frightening to contemplate a world fashioned according to these extremist beliefs. Some on the far left would be fine with a society where scientists challenge nothing, and no one speaks out against any left-wing ideology out of fear of being murdered. Is that really the world that they want? Is that a world of inclusiveness and diversity? Or is that the very dictatorship which they claim to fear? Maybe, in their estimation, having a dictator isn't the problem. They just want the ability to choose the dictator. Those are my thoughts in the case of Charlie Kirk. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.